Physicians tend to be a smart lot. However, we often suck at running a medical practice and running a business. Hello, my name is John Lin. I'm a practicing urologist here in Gilbert, Arizona. I'm very excited to have Travis Nuttall from Ideal Management Solutions here in the studio. He is going to share with us how we as physicians, as practices, improve our service and in the meantime, make money and deliver our services. Welcome to the studios.
Oh, thanks for having me. This
All right,
is great.
Tell us about your business. What do you guys do?
Sure, yeah. So full revenue management company. So really taking steps A to Z, depending on the service and the practice. But we really try to look at the practice as a whole. So what are the areas of struggle? What are some of the pain points? And if there are areas of inefficiency or deficiency, then we can help with that. So everything from service being provided or just overall cash flow struggles as well.
Okay, I want to jump right into it. What have you seen among your clients and what are their struggles?
You know, it's easily every office that I walk into is stressed out. Every office I walk into, every front desk person that I talk to seems stressed out. I'd say 80 or 90% of the people, that you can just feel the tension in the office. That's just, there's a high level of stress in the practice. And then I'll start with an office administrator or practice manager, and they seem a little bit tense and stressed out.
Why do you think that's the case?
You know, I think I'd ask you, what were the 2 or 3 reasons that you went into wanting to practice medicine ultimately?
Well, when I first started, applying to medical school and things like that, it's you want to help people. That was my number one goal. But then once I went through medical school and incurred about $250,000 in debt, the secondary reason became I want to pay off my debt.
Right. And I think that's common. I think those are the 2 things. Most of the doctors and physicians that I deal with, that's their number one thing, is they want to provide good patient care. They want to treat their patients. They're in it for that. The second thing is obviously money. You want to provide a good income for your family, a good quality of life. But yeah, then there's it took a lot of time and it took a lot of money to get where you are in the medical world. So money's also, I think, a high level of stress too, making sure that there's money to not only feed yourself and your family, but you have a lot of mouths to feed with a lot of employees and that type of thing. So,
you bet. Keeping the lights on, pay the rent and everything else.
That's right.
Medical liability insurance, bonuses, raises, and things like that.
Right.
So, okay, you go into these practices that are totally stressed out, and how do you help these people?
Well, you try to understand what are they doing good. I think that's the number one thing. What are you doing good? Because no one wants to be told what they're doing bad or anything. Let's identify the things that we feel that we're doing really good at. And we feel like we're doing really good patient care. Well, help me understand that, because if I can learn what your office is doing good patient care, now I can relay that information down the road to other medical practices that I do. So that's the first thing. And then start peeling the layers back. What are the things that you feel like are challenging? We're really struggling with getting new patients or retaining existing patients and having them come back, or maybe we're just struggling with cash flow, and we really want to try to identify what are the top 2 or 3 really big pains, and then we can start deciding on some solutions or some things that will help.
Okay, so among your existing clients, what have you seen that they struggle with, or maybe what they're doing well?
Well, I think every practice, let's talk service first.
Yeah.
So I think every practice, whether we think we're doing good service, maybe we're not doing as well as we think we could have. So, again, so I'll ask you, so when you look at your medical practice and you are evaluating yourself on a service standard, how are you doing that? How are you saying, Sunrise Urology, we're doing compared to what? How are you measuring your practice right now?
Okay, so for our practice, we actually ask for a lot of surveys. So I keep track of our net promoter score, which is an industry standard, and I follow that. And obviously, we get a lot of reviews from patients directly, and we get anonymous reviews.
Right.
They're not all good, but most of them are good.
Right.
So that's one indication. And the other thing that we look at is the number of new patients and amount of new business that comes in. So those are 2 very simple metrics to see how we're doing.
Yeah. And I think that's a great way to do it. There's no fault in that. But I think there's a better way, and that is, you mentioned industry standard. I think that's what we do a lot of times. How are we doing against our competitors and other medical practices that are doing the same, or just in the medical world? Well, let's take the lens and let's zoom out a little bit. What are some top companies that provide service? And those are the companies that I think we want to start identifying. We want to provide top level service, not just with an industry, but we want to provide top level service, period. And so there's a lot that can be said with that. What are the, let me back up a little bit. So if I go fly, I go in, I typically will fly, if I'm flying domestic, I'm going to fly Southwest Airlines. Why?
Sure.
Because I like the people there. They provide a really good personal touch.
Employees seem happy.
The employees seem happy, exactly. Right. Go in, the person that's reading the announcements, when everyone puts our headphones in and doesn't listen, sometimes I take mine off because they'll always have a catch. They'll say, I have a black wallet up here, and everyone looks up because I don't even have a black wallet. My wallet's brown, but we're looking up because they got your attention. And then I've had people wrap the announcements, and they've been
the safety instructions.
The safety instructions.
Got it.
That's right. So they've identified a different way to provide a higher level of service that's fun and create a different culture. So I think that's one thing. Let's zoom out a little bit. How is our service compared, not just in industry, but how are we compared to other top level service companies? So that would be something that's I run into quite a bit.
And Disney comes to mind when it comes to service.
That's right.
Right, providing the customer an incredible, or what they call Disney experience.
That's right. So let's look at it this way. So you have two competing aspects with service. You have our office, our medical office, that we're going to measure this objectively. We're going to say, what's our efficiency? How is our team doing? And that's very quantitative. We can measure that. Well, you have a patient that comes in here that's going to measure the service standard completely different. They're going to measure it subjectively.
100%.
They're going to say, what? I didn't feel like Dr. Lynn looked at me in the eyes and smiled enough.
Yep.
And it could be something so silly, but that's their perception. So as a medical provider, we need to be aware of that. I'm not saying we don't want to keep our efficiencies, but I think we have to recognize what's the patient thinking. And you mentioned Disney. Everyone comes in there. There's a personal touch. So office teamwork, that's objective. To accomplish a goal, team structure, that's all hands on deck. But when you're trying to accomplish the perception of a patient, it's a one-on-one thing. It's the person up front that receives the patient for check-in, just show them to their room, to the doctor with the encounter, and how are they handling it the whole way. And there's an overall culture that we want to be aware of as well.
So I have seen, and I'm sure we've lost patients because of a negative perception by a particular patient of whatever aspect of they didn't like the wall colors, whatever.
That's right.
And I have seen a lot of patients who have come from other practices, and I specifically ask, why are you here? What did you not get from the other practices? So I learn a lot from these patients. Right. And some of the complaints are valid, and some are just simply, well, you may be a little off, and
that's right.
I'll just take it as it is. I'm just going to take care of you.
That's right.
So, but it is important to learn about what are the friction points, and I constantly talk about friction points when it comes to business. What is the friction? Actually, today I was talking with a patient, and I was complaining about his business, which is his software solution, which is implemented in another business that I'm involved in. And I said, your solution sucks because your UX, your user experience is terrible.
Right.
It creates so much barrier for me to engage with that platform. So I flat out told them your UX and you're creating too much friction. So I'm very keenly aware of friction when it comes to patients as well.
Right. And I think that's really important. So there's two things that come to mind with that. Number one, it's the people, and then number two, it's the systems. So sometimes our employees, our staff, they're stressed out because they don't have the right systems in play. It's not that they're bad people, or they're not even really that bad at doing what they're hired to do. They just don't have the right tools to be successful. So arming them with the right tools is a key component.
So not just the right tools, I think the right, like you said, systems or protocols. They need some sort of guidelines to work within so that they know which direction to go, instead of, well, I'm going to do it this way today, I'm going to do it another way tomorrow.
That's right. And then the other thing I would suggest is giving our staff more autonomy to make decisions. if I go into an office and I go and I say, you know what, this is my struggle, and can you help me out with whatever it is? It could be a billing issue, it could be whatever. And if they say, yeah, I can do that, but I have to check with so and so. All right, I know that's going to go because they're going to check and they're going to come back and tell me no. But if someone could handle most of the decisions, there's certain decisions that you don't want to be handled, of course, but yes, I can handle that and take care of it. What a difference in an experience that is with somebody. And think about the employee who's happy. Now I have power to make decisions. And so it changes and slowly shifts the culture in our work environment, which, again, the patient perception can feel that right when they walk in the door.
So just that one little tweak right there, giving a little bit more autonomy to the staff so that they feel empowered to make decisions, to do the right thing for the patient or customer, instead of having to always defer to a higher authority.
That's right.
The customer waits, is more unhappy, and then it makes the employee less powerful.
Right. Yeah. Think about.
I totally agree.
You mentioned Disney. If I have a complaint at Disney, my child fell, and it was our fault. We were letting our child climb up. If one of the, I guess they call them cast members, right? They're cast members at Disney. If they see that, their number one focus at Disney is safety. That's their number one goal, is safety. Not did they have a good experience and those types of things, but is their safety met? Rush over to my child, make sure everything's okay, and they have the ability to say, you know what, here's a fast pass, or what can we do? And as a person that's there, that feels great. I don't have to go, well, can you go talk to your manager? My son's got this, and we'd like to make him happy. Can we get on
Yeah.
It's none of that. It's just the ability to make that decision. So you feel that. You feel
that's
that
great.
Right when you enter the park. And so if we can incorporate something similar in our medical practices, the whole cultural shifts. It really is that perception of feeling when we're in the office, which can be a dramatic experience from going to our competitors' practice versus our practice. And then wouldn't you want to tell other people? I had a great experience at Sunrise Urology because, the office staff was great. They did this and that, and there's some huge benefits. Not always easy to measure those because it's a little bit subjective, but eventually we get to be able to measure those through the bottom line.
That's exactly right. The bottom line, that really everybody. So when it comes to marketing, when it comes to service, every I would say C-suite executive or middle management folk, they all want attribution. Sometimes you just can't get attribution. Mm-hmm. The only thing you can measure is number of new patients, maybe, or what is the bottom line.
Right.
This rolling 3 months relative to last year. Now, since you've implemented this change.
Right.
So maybe sometimes that's the only thing that you can measure.
Yeah, and it is. And I would venture to say, a lot of the practices that I go into don't even measure it that way. They don't have the ability to see full transparency with what's going on in the practice. They're relying on their office manager, somebody to do that, but sometimes they're not able to be in tune with what's driving their financial well-being or not so well-being of the business because they just don't have the ability to do that, whether it's time or the resources or tools to do that. And so they can't even compare. Well, last year, we had X number of new patients and we had this referral. We just can't measure that because we don't have the tools. So it makes it a little bit more challenging too. Therefore, we go back to we're stressed out because we're not doing as well as we'd like to.
So how does Ideal Management Solutions help when it comes to this type of service aspects or metrics that all practices need? You really have to look at your numbers every single month to if you want to improve. I mean, I see a lot of practice. I interact with a lot of practices, and I actually help a lot of practices, and I also help startups. And often they don't, like you said, they don't look at their numbers. They don't understand the trends. They don't know the trends.
Right.
In what direction they're going, and subsequently that translates to, well, I don't know how to help the employees and provide bonuses or raises and things like that, because you don't know how well you're doing on the top line and bottom line.
That's right.
You can't make decisions that way.
That's right. I think, first thing is we want to be able to see it. So we need full transparency. So providing a system that has full transparency. A lot of the practices that I work with, are partners. You have more than one doctor owner. And so having a system that both doctors can see, they can access it from home on their smartphone while they're watching a game or their favorite show with their wife or something like that. They can look and see, okay, how are we doing? The other thing is that protects everybody in the office. It protects the people that are making those entries. It protects the doctors themselves. And then we can make decisions accordingly. You know, we need to really focus on our AR, or we need to focus on more timely billing, or we need to focus on, you know, we need some more patients. Why are we missing that? What are we doing? And then you can make a game plan accordingly.
So what are some of the metrics that that you think are important for practices to see?
So the first one, let's talk revenue. So I think, you know, are you capturing at least 98, 90%, 99% of your billable insurance claims? If you're not collecting near that, then something's off. You know, if you're missing 10, 20, you know, industry standards about 30%. We're missing about 30% of our insurance claims. That's a huge number of revenue for most practices that we just kind of think, well, that's time.
Okay, wait. You're saying industry wide, if I provide a service and I bill $100, industry wide, most practices are only collecting $70 out of the 100.
Well, I'm saying that if I build 100 claims at $100,
got it.
Okay, I'm only going to collect 70% of those. So
Got it.
70 of those 100 claims I'm going to collect. So the math probably works out very similar, but that's what it is. So we're missing 30% of our revenue because we're not
Billing issues.
Billing issues, correct.
Whether that is collecting the right code, submitting the claims in a timely fashion,
That's right.
and making sure all the demographic details are perfect before you submit the claim. Basically, you're scrubbing the claim and making sure
That's right.
it's clean. So, believe it or not, sometimes the insurance companies, even if you put all the information correct and send it to the clearinghouse, insurance companies will willy-nilly sometimes just reject a claim.
That's right.
And it is really up to the practices to look at the rejections and work those claims that are not being paid. And I think that contributes to the 30% that you're talking about.
That's right, because we get busy and we get overwhelmed, and now we're looking at, you know what, I've submitted this 2 or 3 times. I may or may not get paid, but you know what? I need to focus on the new bills because those are the ones that I feel like I have a better chance of collecting. It's a cash flow game, and
lower hanging fruit.
Lower hanging fruit, exactly right. And that's the easier stuff. So that's an area that we've been able to help a lot, because that's what we do all the time, is focus on capturing that darn near 100% of the revenue, which, you know, creates a lot more cash flow.
Sure.
You know, you talk about bonuses. I think this is the time of year most people expect a bonus, right?
Sure.
It's Christmas time. So being able to do those things, but just having the right revenue and capturing that's really, really important.
Okay. As far as customers on the customer service side, what have you seen, and what can some practices improve upon?
So I think, you know, again, I kind of use the word systems a lot, having the right systems in place. So that's an area that we can look at and take, you know, do you have the right systems and tools for your staff to be more efficient? Because if their time is spent on the phone confirming patient demographics or calling an insurance company or something like that, when a person comes in, they're stressed out dealing with those issues. They're not greeting with a smile, hey, how's your day? You know, how's Johnny's soccer going? You know, that type of thing, which is such a big thing. It's that patient perception, which is a one-on-one encounter, not the whole, you know, how are we doing as a team?
But it starts from the practice itself, providing the right tools. Mm-hmm. And the right tools may mean having dual screens on a computer so that you can have your practice management solution open on one screen and your EHR open on the other screen.
Right.
And it could be maybe like a hands-free wireless headset so that you can talk on the phone and still be productive on the computer if you need to. And I interviewed someone recently who provides the training necessary to give that Disney experience. So the customer service skills, if you will, for medical practices. Mm-hmm. And that's also something that could be very important.
Yeah, it is. You know, you mentioned kind of the training with people. So I get asked, you know, well, how do you know how to write people? So I'll give you kind of 2 areas that a recommendation. Hire somebody that's smart, which, you know, you're gonna have to use some intelligence to hire somebody that's smart, but you can find out, you know, are they capable of handling certain tasks? Second quality, are they happy? If they're smart and they're happy, I know they're gonna have a good attitude, and I know they're teachable because they can learn things. And if we hire that way, then usually we're gonna win most of the time. And because that's an area that we think, man, I just didn't hire right. And again, it could be you didn't hire right. It could be we don't have the right tools and resources available for them to be successful.
So when it comes to hiring, my philosophy is I'm going to hire quickly, and I'm going to hire on attitude more than aptitude.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a good I can't instill good attitude into a person, but I can provide them with the skills necessary to work in this office. And the other philosophy I have is I'm going to hire fast, but I'm going to fire faster, because an unhappy, non-productive employee that is dragging everybody down, I akin it to cancer. That person is like a cancer growing in your practice, and if you don't excise the cancer or fire that person, he or she is going to drag the rest of your team down.
Yeah, and it creates that hot air, that feeling of tension that could be back office and related. But you know what? As a patient, if I walk into that office, I can feel it. It just feels off. Again, patient perception.
Totally true.
My experience of this practice, it just felt a little weird. Care was awesome. I was in and out. I got treated great. I don't have to go back. But that wasn't my perception. It was just a little uncomfortable.
So I can't tell you how many patients who have come to my practice and after leaving another practice, and they had a great experience with the physician, competent, caring, but they left the practice because of the staff, the disorganization and lack of efficiency, if you will. That like you said, the perception of disorganization, and they're gone.
Yeah, they're frustrated. And a lot of that, even if that's the case, because that could take some time to get cleaned up, but a lot of that can be solved through just better communication. Communicating with the patient what's going on, having that one-on-one time, not feeling like you're in a hurry, that they're just a number, that there's somebody you care about. Ask them how their day is. Try to get a little bit of dialogue going. Smile, greet them. And some of that chaos as we're trying to get cleaned up and stuff can be kind of, I guess, camouflaged, if you will, with some of just that personal one-on-one touch. So I would recommend that people look at just the overall experience of the patient coming in more than the systems and how we're performing as a team, and look at cleaning up that secondary.
So what else? Okay, so we talked about systems, processes, the people, the experience, the top line collections. What other things have you seen when you're counseling and advising different medical practices?
Well, you guys go to medical school for a long time to learn medicine, and there's a lot that needs to be done, and medicine's constantly changing. The tools and technology and the things that you're provided with to treat patients hopefully is continuing to improve and increase. But there's also the other area that you guys have to deal with, which is the governmental changes and regulations. Those are constantly changing, maybe even arguably faster than some of the medical technology that's changing. So dealing with some of the regulatory changes can be quite burdensome. And then if you're trying to keep up with those all the changes, compliance issues and the coding issues and changes, that's quite stressful when we're trying to learn and keep up with the practicing medicine, becoming good at what we're doing, providing good patient care. So that's another area that I see, just the stress that's being imposed by the governmental regulational changes. So we can help with that as well, where we can help protect against those things, where you're not worried about the changes and constant updates, where we take care of that and we offload that burden, that stress. So again, the goal is you guys focus on doing what you're good at, which is providing good patient care or better patient care, because now you get rid of some of that stress, and that us do some of the stuff that's a little bit more stressful, which is dealing with the government, all the changes, all the regulations, all those types of things.
Sounds great. Now, I see a book over there. What is that book?
So I brought this. This is The Thriving Medical Practice.
You didn't write that, right?
I wish I did.
Okay.
It's actually really neat. So one of the authors is Vicki Rackner. She's a former surgeon. She practiced medicine or surgeries until 2000, and then she started a consulting business because she just realized medical practices are struggling. 40%, and I think the numbers from my experience is higher, but 40%, I'd probably say it's at least double, but 40% will say, that's the number I've been told, our physicians are just tired. They're exhausted. They're stressed out. They're just burned out.
There's a huge discussion among physicians in physician-only groups about burnout, and I'm a little worried because as we get older, we're gonna need medical care,
Right.
and if these younger physicians are burning out,
Right.
who's gonna take care of us? Right?
Right.
It is a concern. It's a selfish concern.
Yeah, right. So that's something that we want to be aware of because it's a very real issue. So the burnout, I think we talked about a lot of some of those burnouts and those stresses. So she's one of the authors, and then Patrick Phillips is a president of MIRMA, which is the Medical Revenue Managers Association of America, which is the largest medical revenue managers association in the entire country. So they've teamed up and they've wrote this book, The New Thriving Medical Practice. And what it is, it just outlines some of the tools and some of the strategies that can help any physician improve their medical practice. So I'm happy to give anyone that would like, just contact me. I'm happy to send this book for free, and I'll send that to you without no cost to you. And it's a great read. I'll even mark some of the key things that I think are helpful as well. So that's a good resource and tool for you. And so anyone that wants it, just feel free to contact.
And I have left your email and your website
Perfect.
in the video description, and I might borrow that book and read it real
It's
quick
yours.
because I'm always interested in how to improve the practice, better that patient experience, and obviously improve the bottom line. I'm going to say a hello to a bunch of people here. Oh my gosh, lots of people. John, Karen, Todd, Heather, Sarah, Laurel, Nicole, Danielle, Melissa, Jerome, Kevin, Raul, David, Don. Thank you all so much for watching. If you have any questions about practice management, you can reach out to Travis or myself through the comment section. Travis's email and website are there. If you're in the Gilbert area
Anywhere.
or
Anywhere
in the country.
Yeah, I'm happy to work with you guys.
That and you think you need some assistance with improving your practice or your bottom line, please feel free to reach out to Travis. I'm sure he'll be happy to help you. And the other thing is, if you're interested in the Thriving Medical Practice book, contact Travis via the email in the video description, and he will send a copy to you. So I want to thank you for coming over here and doing this with us, and hope you guys got some value from this interview. And leave any comments in the comment section below. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks.